Let's talk about the waiver wire. Which players are popping off? Who are we adding? Who's being dropped? Are they the right moves? Let's take a look. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I just got back from DJing my set at the Fish and Chip Shop. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, check out lockedondaily.com and sign up for our free newsletters over there. 5 days a week, free in your inbox. Also, double bang this video. Give the thumb, give the comment, give the subscribe, leave all that stuff around the video. Let's talk waiver wire. Today is World Frog Day, so if you're a big amphibian, maybe today is the day that you get all froggy with it, I guess. Spawning out. Is that a thing? It's probably not. Let's talk waiver wire. Let's take a look at some names that need mentioning. Let's look at the most added players over the last 48 hours. Number one there is Keon Johnson. That's an interesting one. He only played 23 minutes last game. He's had a couple of interesting games. We know that Cam Thomas is out. I don't know about that. I think that Keon is okay to take a look at on days when the Nets are in a schedule advantage spot. Is he someone that I'd look at and go, yeah, like I'm feeling really good about just having Keon Johnson on my team? I don't think so. I think there's still too much uncertainty regarding the role. Yeah, we saw it last game. D'Angelo Russell played 29 minutes. Keon played 23. And if Russell is done, then you might be able to get 30 minutes consistently out of Keon, but you're going to get bad shooting notes. I don't know. I think it's fine, but I wouldn't say it's a high priority. Jaxson Hayes is, though. I had a lot of people on some of my waiver wire streaming shows go, hey, how come you didn't mention Jaxson Hayes for like rebounds and blocks? Well, the reason is he was at 85% rostered according to Basketball Monster's roster number, and I don't do anybody that's under 65. 65% rostered on for those lists because I just assume they're grabbed everywhere. But I guess not. Because he is sitting at like still 30-ish on Yahoo. At the moment, especially while LeBron is out, Jaxson Hayes just should be rostered. And people have grabbed him there. He's one of the most added players. But he had fallen ahead or jumped ahead of the cutoff that I'd use. That's why I didn't include him. And that's always the challenge with the things that I do. And it's why I want to make... Here, do you want a little peek behind the curtain? When I do these shows, right, I want to make them informative. I want to make them challenge you in thought processes in terms of the process of doing this and analyzing players' skills, but I want to make them fun and I want to make them entertaining, and I hope that I do that. And the reason I want to do that is I can't make shows like this where it is just like, add now this guy drop, add him, because I don't know. I don't know who is available in your league. I can set parameters and I do that and it covers the majority of things. But if I came out in every show and said, yep, guys, Jaxson Hayes, and 90% of you go, well, he's already added. And then in other shows where I say, don't add Jaxson Hayes. And then, people go, oh, he didn't say add Jaxson Hayes, therefore he mustn't be an ad. Me saying something or not saying something doesn't mean that it doesn't fall into certain categories. There's just got to be limits to everything that we do. If you want that granularity about your specific league, that's what we have at Basketball Monster, where you input all your league and it shows you, the players and the projections and where they fit and the guys available and not available. But I can't make this show based on this is the ad, this is the drop, that is the only way to do it, because I believe that sort of information makes things go wrong because it can't cover everybody. You might miss another play, you might do this, or there's so many ways that can cause problems. So that's again the peak behind why I do some of the stuff when I talk about in the past buy lows and sell high trades, and be like, I'm not going to tell you specifically this is the guy you trade away, because for a lot of you that player won't exist, or you can't get that guy targeting in a trade. It's more about the idea, the process, the spherical shape of the deals that you're doing, spherical, versus like, do this specifically, this is the only way to do it, this is the hand-holded way to go. Like, I don't think that works. That's what I do. So yeah, Jaxson Hayes is good ad. Max Strus has been added. I hope that people added Max Strus because they thought, hey, Cavs have got a back-to-back. And I like the Tuesday of the low volume day. And I hope they didn't react to yesterday's game to add him. I think that would have been a mistake. If you had the open spot on Wednesday to get the 2 games in, that's a totally reasonable move. But adding him on the back of yesterday's game, hoping that gets replicated, I think that's a waste. But again, we'll find out. Kevin Huerter, one of the more added players. I think he's going to cop a hit today. Josh Giddey is returning today. Now, Giddey will sit on Thursday, so Huerter will get a little bit of a boost there. But Huerter, I believe, needs Lonzo out and Giddey out to be a 30-minute-a-night player to be useful enough for 12-team leagues. And we'll find out today. We're going to get information on that. We'll see how that one looks when we get to it. The next guy is Jared Butler. And it's... Butler had a moment earlier in the season, don't know if you remember, when he was a two-way guy playing for the Wizards. He was traded by the Wizards for Reggie Jackson, of all people, who they waived, and I think they got a second-round pick out of it. Over the last week, he is a top 100 player. You can see the numbers on the screen. It's not through gigantically high usage, only 19% usage. In Washington, he was running at like 26% usage. He's averaging 14, 3, and 6 with 1.3 steals, and that's really what's happening. Well, the free throws are great, 293. 6 assists, 1.3 steals, 14 points. That's very good. He's playing 33 minutes over the last week. He is a guy that I prefer over Jeff Doughton. Again, there's no limits on what Butler can do contract-wise. It is going to be, at times, iffy in terms of where he sits with his playing time, because we've seen sometimes they reduce it or sometimes he goes missing usage-wise. But one thing that has been really consistent with Butler are his assist numbers. And I don't think that Tyrese Maxey is coming back. I'm pretty sure Kyle Lowry is just done. I think he might be retiring, to be fair. And Butler is going to have a pretty strong role. So I do like this as an ad. It is going to be a little inconsistent, but I think that mark there of 92nd and 95th in points leagues it's not an outrageous expectation for the rest of the season, I don't think. The 6th most added player was the big fella in Charlotte, Daquan Jeffries. And I am certain that this is because of the schedule, where they play Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, which is a great schedule. That's why you added him. You got a great game on Tuesday. I hope that it wasn't people chasing Tuesday's game, even though for that one it would make more sense because you get a Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, 3 and 4 after that. And he's not going to be that good every game. So it makes a little bit more sense, but hopefully it was people adding before Tuesday's game and you got that one random good game that you're not always going to get out of the big fella himself, Daquan Jeffries. On Yahoo, the most added player list. You go to Washington, Tristan Vukcevic. The Wizards are a really tough one. And after all that talk that I had yesterday about what the Wizards and the Jazz are doing with the injury report, they changed it all. Everything changed. Larry Markkinen got ruled out. Walker Kessler got ruled back in. Jordan Poole went from doubtful to in. Marcus Smart went from out to in or questionable. I don't know what's happening. I'm pretty certain the league got on the phone to these guys and went, bro, I see what you're doing. What are you doing? Please change this around. We're going to investigate you. We're going to find you. But also, again, this is the key game for the Wizards and the Jazz. The loser of this game controls their destiny to have the number 1 odds in the lottery. So I don't know what the league did. I don't know how it's going to go. That game is still remote, very, very weird. But the complete reversal of injury reports makes me think that there was a phone call that happened. Anyway, I don't think that they're going to be able to police what they do minutes-wise. And last game, Sarr was playing well, but he played 23 minutes, and Rashawn Holmes was just taken out of the rotation, and Vukcevic played 24, 25 minutes. So people have added him. Of course, with these sort of guys and with this sort of tanking shenanigans, it could be weirdness. The other thing I find interesting about people complaining, the NBA, it's killing it, people don't want to watch. But look at what these teams are doing. I find that it's a very, very fantasy-centric view. Because also, let's be very clear about this. If you aren't playing fantasy basketball, there's not a single NBA fan that's going, man, cut what that Wizards Jazz game. Let's see Jordan Poole and Larry Markkinen. That's going to be the real game for 2 teams that have won 30 games combined for the season. Man, I can't wait to see what they're doing. They're not playing. That is unbelievable. I was really geared up for that. Nobody cares about this game. These seasons are done for weeks. Nobody cares, but I know that there's an outs, and I hear the noise, and I go, well, is this really what people are thinking? But if you are not playing fantasy, not a single person cares, honestly, about whether the Jazz or the Wizards are playing certain guys at certain points. Most of them will be like, this is bloody, look at it's so funny. But in terms of watchability of the league, no one's basing their fandom of the NBA based on whether Jordan Poole plays a game in March against the Jazz. Surely not. But I know it impacts us. Anyway, Vukcevic. It could go wrong. This game is going to be incredibly weird. It could go wrong. Trey Jones, one of the most added players. Giddey will have an impact, and if Lonzo ever returns, it'll further impact him. But for now, he's just rolling, and we love that. The next most added player on this list is Jonas Valanciunas. Why? Well, Domantas Sabonis is out for at least 10 days. He came back from the hamstring, and then he sprained his ankle. Valanciunas' numbers over the last week, in which Sabonis played, I think, 30 minutes in one game and 12 in another, they're not good. He had 24 usage, but he's averaging 6 and 6 in only 14 minutes a game. That's obviously not good. 47% from the field, 75% from the line. Those numbers just are bad. He's 221st in category leagues. He's 204th in points leagues. But he should be rostered at this point. Now, they could easily just go with Trey Lyles, and they did in a few games, and some of that I think is going to be matchup based. But they've got some games coming up against bigger opponents. Then they've got a Cavs game coming up, and I think a Nuggets game maybe even coming up, where they're probably going to need Valanciunas versus Lyles out there. And yeah, he had some big games when Sabonis was out, but they did start to trend away from him. So while I do think that he is a solid ad, he probably should be grabbed. I'm not fully there that it's going to be transformational. Aaron Nesmith, one of the most added players as well. Okay. I know that he was good a couple of games ago, then he sat the last one. To me, he is just filler-level production without being great, and I just don't think that you need to be looking at him as any sort of must-roster guy. People also added Obi Toppin, and that is, yeah. Now, it might work out because Pascal Siakam is still questionable. Right, still questionable, so is Tyrese Halliburton. But that is really giving chase. It's just giving what everyone was out. He had a huge game. We must add him. And with 11 games on Wednesday, I'm very, very, very certain that he is going to appear on the most dropped list the day after. So I don't think that one. I don't think that's the right. We'll see. If Siakam does happen to be out, then maybe you get something good out of it. You probably do. But long term, there was just absolutely no path for that being good. And the other one there is Matas Buzelis, who'd been really marginalized, and then they played him 29 minutes in the last game. So that was a little bit more interesting. Whether that is something that continues or not, I'm not really sure. It's okay as a move. I wouldn't say it's a priority for me, though. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That is over 8x the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk, rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 per month for 1 year from the first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost. Over 8x the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November the 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. It's nothing like watching sports and basketball live. The energy of that crowd, the sound of the ball, the sneakers, all that stuff. And Game Time makes getting tickets even easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, it filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on the great seats. You don't have to waste the time scrolling through thousands of tickets. You can easily check on all the deals in your local area. They're super deals as well, giving you the best bang for your buck. You got the seat views before you buy. There's no surprise fee, and there is a lowest price guarantee as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Okay, let's get into a little bit more waiver wire action in terms of the most dropped players. We'll go through whether these ones make sense, and for the most part, they do. Adem Bona, Gershon Yabusele, Zach Collins. Three centers who I can't even speak this morning. Three centers who did have some value at a period of time, but Yabusele is really not to be trusted in sort of roles, and Bona's out, and Collins is a backup again. These are easy drops. If we see situations where Bona returns and he starts, then we're in. But you can't be waiting, and seeing what happens. And Yabusele is just a poor per-minute player. Cole Anthony, injured. Karis LeVert, injured. Easy drops. if they come back and they're playing, then you can stream them back in and see where it goes. And the last one there is Brandon Williams. Not only does he have a 2-game week this week, but he's questionable for Wednesday, and he's barely got any games left on his 2-way contract. 5 left, I believe. That is just not a player worth holding on to. And Jaden Hardy is maybe going to return, and that probably impacts Williams as well. You can't hold a player who might play 1 game this week, and then you've got limited games remaining, and maybe he plays a situation where Dinwiddie and Hardy eat into the playing time. It doesn't make sense to be holding him. There was a couple of good little games there, but the circumstances don't suggest that you should do it. The most dropped players on Yahoo, a couple of Warriors lead this list. Gary Payton and Moses Moody. People added them for the back-to-back. They got the back-to-back out of them. They move on. Easy done. They do play again on Thursday, but that's okay. You can do better things with that roster spot for the most part. Again, if you've planned out your week and one of the ways you've used multiple stream moves is to do a 3 and 4 to begin the week, I get it. That does work. But otherwise, this is fine. Al Horford dropped. His game yesterday wasn't very good. He did play a lot of minutes, which was interesting with Porzingis there. But yeah, obviously no Tatum and no Brown. Horford is fine. He's a guy you just drop in and move out and all that sort of stuff. Chris Dunn dropped. Yep, barely played. I think largely because Bogdanovic didn't miss a shot. But Dunn's going to be hit or miss and a steal streamer. People added Kevin Porter. They shouldn't have. They dropped Kevin Porter. They should have. Good move. And the last one there is John Kuminga, which I do believe is a pretty easy drop. He is still limited in minutes. He's also limited in terms of what he is as a player, and that is a not very good player, and definitely a not very good fantasy player, and way better in points leagues. And even then, you're going to need 31, 32 minutes out of John Kuminga, plus a large level of usage. And the fact is that now you've got Jimmy Butler there instead. And that is just not going to allow Kuminga, who's playing off the bench, to play the minutes that he needs. Do not hold on. I believe that it's not going to cost you a fantasy championship, but it could. It could cost you a fantasy championship if you hold on, because I just think you're sitting there going, man, Kuminga, I like it. He does big dunks. People tell me he's good, but he's not.
Get that garbage out of here.
So I don't think you need to be rostering Jonathan Kuminga, at least at this point. Maybe we reassess it later on, but now, no. Let's look at some players who over the last week are inside the top 100 and whether they make any sense for us to do anything with. Number 1 on that list there is Scott Pippen, who has had a couple of really interesting games. Then last game with Morant out, he was out as well. Now Morant is out again on Wednesday. Pippen is questionable. Pippen is a nice assists and steals guy. He was really in favor earlier in the season, completely fell out of the rotation with Luke Kennard getting those minutes instead. And then he sort of moved back in. They're playing a lot of 3-point guard sets with Morant, Kennard, and Pippen together. And now Morant is out again. So yeah, 58th ranked player over the last week for category leagues, Pippen, which is obviously really good. And that is not because Morant was necessarily out. He is interesting enough. Now, I don't trust the wrist health at this stage, but is he someone that we can look at as a stream level guy? Yeah, he is. Justin Champagnie, the 80th ranked player, and that is including the last game, which was a dud. The risk with Champagnie, and I do like Champagnie, if they were playing him 31 minutes a night, he would be a very clear must roster, must hold through all circumstances sort of player. But last game, and I do fear that this will happen this game, he just didn't play very much because he was playing too well, so they benched him. And I do worry that they'll do that and bench him for a Jalen Martin. Well, they benched him last game for AJ Johnson. So I would be a little bit worried about how much playing time he gets. But again, we saw the weird reversal of situation for Smart and Poole. But does that have an impact on Champagnie? I would try to hold for Wednesday and see what comes of it, because I think when they play the better teams, he'll just go back and play 30 minutes and be useful again. But remember, these teams are battling for that number 1 seed. And while, yes, number 1 and number 2 seed in the lottery have the same odds for the number 1 pick, 14% I think it is. All right, they've got the same odds. The difference between the number 1 and number 2 spot is in number 1, you can fall down to pick number 5. In number 2, you can fall down to pick number 6. That's a difference. Yeah, you can both still get the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick or whatever, but the floor value just changes. And I think a lot of draft evaluators go, yeah, there are really top 5 guys in this draft, so we want to be in that top 5. And finishing with the worst record guarantees you a top 5 pick. Finishing with the second worst record guarantees you a top 6 pick. Now, it's pretty unlikely that you fall out of that top 4, but actually, you know what? I'm going to check. I don't think it is that unlikely. Let me double check. All right, so the odds for that pick are 20% if the Wizards, or whoever's in that second seed, it's a 20% odds of getting pick 6. It means it's 80% of getting top 5. So, yeah, you've got that, but it's 80 versus 100. So it is a difference. It is a pretty significant difference. And if you finish in the third spot, you've got a 67% chance of a top 5 pick and 33 of being either 6 or 7. Yeah, it's 26 and then 7% for getting the 7th pick. So That is why. It's not because they want more odds for number one pick, because it's the same odds. It's limiting the downside risk. That's you probably don't need me to say that continually. Royce O'Neal's the 90th ranked player over the last week. That's great, I guess. Is it someone that I really care about that much? Honestly, not really. He's been useful, but there's just way too much inconsistency in what Royce does for me to feel any level of confidence of just plugging him into the lineup all the time. I just don't feel that at all. I'm going to come back and I'm going to give a bit of a chat about Zaccharie Risacher. Before we do that, though, today's episode is brought to you by Upwork. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts that are ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. And when you need extra hands on a project or just a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Finding the right talent if you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who's delivered incredible results. It's fast and it's easy. Posting a job is free and simple as well. So visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is upwork.com, upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right. Now we will dive in and just take a bit of a look at Zaccharie Risacher, who's been a top 100 player over the last week of action, which, again, for what he's been doing and the way that the minutes have been handled, have been incredibly frustrating. This is a pretty good result. Risacher, over the last week, is 95th in category leagues. He's only 141st in points leagues because the volume's not huge, but he's averaging 15 and 5. 0.8 assists is pretty mind-blowing, and the defensive stats are very, very low. But part of the reason he's able to get to this number is the shooting is out of control. 51 from the field and 100 from the line. So while those numbers are solid and the rank gives you a value of hey, look at that, that's pretty strong, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I trust Zaccharie Risacher to be a 51% from the field guy and 100% from the line. I don't want to sit here and tell you that because I don't believe that. And the other thing we look at is, what about opportunities? What about minutes? Do I feel good about his minutes value? Well, no, I don't, because they're not giving him big minutes. He played 9 first half minutes last game. He played 23, 24, I think 25 minutes the last 3 games. That's not enough. If he was playing 30 minutes a night, I'd say, yeah, let's grab Risacher and let's go with it. The other thing is that they don't play until Saturday. So if you add Risacher now, you get nothing on Wednesday, you get nothing on Thursday, you get nothing on Friday. For a guy where I'm worried about the shooting percentages and I'm worried about the minutes distribution. Now, he's going to be an excellent add-on Saturday, Sunday. But like I said on the recap show yesterday, that's all well and good, right? To try that out and to have him and go, wow, I've got ahead of it and I grabbed this Hawks guy who's got the weekend back-to-back. But the value from doing that just completely wiped out because you've just taken zeros in that slot on Thursday, Friday. Actually just completely wiped out. Whereas you'd be better getting a night watchman Mohamed Gay in that slot or getting a George Niang or a Terrence Mann. Much worse options, I think, than what Risacher does. But then you've also got someone in on Thursday and someone in on Friday. And no matter how good you think Risacher is, getting 4 games from that slot is way better than getting 2 Risacher games. Also, considering we don't know how much he's going to play or how good he's going to be. So we'll reassess it on Thursday, Friday. We'll see, or not on Thursday, Friday. We'll see, in terms of an ad for the weekend. But I wouldn't overcommit to that at this point. If I was in a league where I've got a stash ability spot or I'm in a buy, I can see them maybe ramping those minutes up. I can't see the percentages holding, but I can see the minutes maybe ramping. So maybe there's something there. Kelly Olynyk is the 96th ranked player over the last week. He doesn't do it through any ways where you go, yeah, I can really see the value here. It's just little bits and pieces. Steal, a block, 3 assists, some okay percentages. Trey Murphy going down, does that help Olynyk? I'm not sure it really impacts him that much, to be honest. Trey hasn't really been playing any 4 at all. He plays like the 2 and the 3. I think it's going to be more Alvarado Hawkins and maybe even someone by the name of Antonio Reeves that gets some extra minutes. But Olynyk is doing enough to be at least considered, especially when the Pelicans have a good schedule spot going. So, yeah, he's sort of there, but not quite there. Cason Wallace is the other one, the Hong Kong Mattress, the 101st ranked player. With the absence of Jalen Williams, his minutes have gone up. But we know sort of what he is. He's a guy that he probably does need 30 minutes a night, and it requires people being out to get there, but he is a steals specialist. They've also had a pretty bad schedule this week. They haven't played this week, and I don't even know if he's going to play on Wednesday. So, yeah, I get it. He's been good, but not someone that I'd want to tie onto my roster and hope that just works out. I've got 6 other names that I want to go through here for various different reasons. The number one on this list is a guy that I cannot believe we are talking about this man, because at the start of the season I said, hey, is he even going to play like 5 minutes combined for the entirety of the season? Because Jalen Hood-Schifino got his third-year rookie option declined by the Lakers. He never played. He had a random hamstring injury, which I don't think was actually that serious of a hamstring injury, but kept him out for like 3 months. He was part of the trade, the Luka Doncic trade, went to Utah, they waived him, and then Philadelphia claimed him. And now, with Philadelphia sitting a bunch of guys and having a bunch of injuries, Jalen Hood-Schifino is playing minutes. And Jalen Hood-Schifino is someone that unbelievably we have to take seriously. He is really not rostered anywhere. He's had 18 usage over the last week. He's averaging 21 fantasy points, which again is not a huge amount. He's 183rd in category leagues. Again, that's not great, but 12, 3, and 1.7 assists. 46 and 75 in 25 minutes, hitting 2 threes. I look at that and go, okay, that is not great, but what if he gets a run of 31 minutes? What if we start to get 4 assists? What if we get a run of a steal a game? He's not doing these numbers on outrageous things that can't be continued. In fact, every one of those things I look at there and go, that could all definitely improve. Is he a better option than, say, Jeff Doughton in Philly? I think probably yes. Could he be better than Jared Butler? I think also probably yes. Honestly, I think he could be. And I don't know that I want to trust it at all, and there's no real sample size behind any of this. But this is one for the double onyxes. This is like, he's available everywhere, Jalen Hood-Schifino. So there's no guarantee of this, obviously. But minutes have trended up. He's getting a solid role. And a lot of that stuff that he's doing there, particularly assists and steals, that can improve. And the minutes can improve as well. So just, yeah, he is someone that I think you need to be looking at. Got Ryan Dunn on this list as well. He's starting at the moment. His usage is up, and Bradley Beal is out for at least a week. So Dunn is going to hold this role. I think you should only be looking at him as a steals, out of position blocks, and threes guy. And anything else you get to that is a bonus. It's probably more 14 teams than it is a 12-team leagues sort of area. But again, when we're in 12s, sometimes guys ahead will sit down and he'll get an extra run, and then the schedule makes sense to get 2-3 games in 4 nights or a back-to-back or whatever. And he's in the zone for us here. We have to now, after being banished to the nether regions, that's your dick. No, that's not what we're talking about. To the something zone, dead zone, whatever. He's back. Same with fellow rookie on Phoenix, Osa Iguodala, who is again more of a deeper league guy, but Mason Plumlee is now injured. Nick Richards remains Nick Richards, so that does open things up for Iguodala to play 25 minutes a night. He probably needs 28, I would say, to be on the cusp of 12s. But we can't ignore Iguodala at this point. We also, like I said earlier, we have to be mentioning or discussing Jordy Hawkins. Because with Trey Murphy out, Trey's value is being a volume shooter. That's what... Now, Trey is obviously a lot better, by the way. That jersey that you see on the screen there, Pelicans just need to change their color scheme to that. The blue, red, and gold is so boring. I need that purple and fluoro green. They need to change it. Anyway, Jordan Hawkins is going to have an increase in role. Because you look at these numbers and go, just why would you be bringing up the man who's averaging 10 fantasy points a game over the last week? What are we talking about? He's averaging 5 points with a 3. 25% shooting in 23 minutes, 17 usage. He's 5% rostered. What are you talking about? And you're right. But one of the other... There's a lot of core tenets. I've got a lot of plates. I'm like Red Panda balancing bowls here of things that we've got to pay attention to. One of the things we're looking at is like we look at past performances, but past performance doesn't mean what happens the next game. So while while Hawkins is averaging 6 points and is the 339th ranked player, I've got to bring him up because in the next game he might be way better. There's a lot of shots to go around. There's a lot of minutes to go around. He's probably going to shoot better than 25% as we move forward. Now, he is, again, not a very good player. He is, I think, he was overdrafted a lot in the draft, and he hasn't really shown me anything apart from like a couple, 2-3 game stretches. But now it's about opportunity, and it's here. And I would much rather have Jose Alvarado over him if he's available. But Hawkins is just someone, again, we have to pay attention to. And if you look at those numbers and you're scrolling down where ranks are, you'll go, why would I do that? Why would I care? Well, it's because a lot is going to have to change here. That usage probably doesn't stay at 17. The shooting definitely doesn't stay at 25. It's pretty unlikely he gets 1 rebound a game and 0 steals a game, which is what's been happening recently. So I do think there is a significant improvement coming, and it's worth looking at. I bring up Kelly Ware here because I like Kelly Ware. It's frustrating the way he's being used. I think he's going to have multiple top 50 fantasy seasons in the future, and I think that there is a pretty sizable chance he's a top 3 rookie out of this entire class through their career. I'd say that Saar is still number 1, and then it gets a little bit iffy after that. But where at the moment there's no consistency, the usage is down, the minutes are all over the place, you don't have to roster him. So I know people will be holding on to him. You don't need to be doing that at this stage, I don't think. Maybe we reassess it if they change their mind again, but no. The next guy we talk about is Colin Castleton, who was a guy that was a rookie last season, played for the Lakers, and then has sort of bounced around this season. The Lakers waived him. I believe he went to Memphis for a bit, and now he's in Toronto on a 10-day contract. It's his second 10-day contract, and that second 10-day contract ends after Monday. Yeah, so he's got 3 more games on that 10-day contract. Now, unlike the Mavericks situation, the Raptors can just sign him rest of season. He's on a roster spot that they've got, and they can just say, cool, we're going to use this roster spot either to cycle through other 10-day guys, or we'd really like what you've got. Here's a 4-year contract with 3 non-guaranteed deals and sign him rest of season. So I'm not that worried about him not being there rest of season. I think he's done enough for them to hold on to him. They've already done that with Jamison Battle, who was a 2-way guy they converted. They had Orlando Robinson on a 10-day into a 2-way, into a full contract, and I think Castleton will get the similar treatment. So just, we're not as worried about him as we are with the Dallas guys. Over the last week, he is a top 150 player in categories and points leagues. He's playing 30 minutes a night. He's only averaging 10 points, but 10 rebounds, 1.3 blocks, elite percentages. It's 0.3 threes. That's not very much. He's a 15 usage player. And every game that Jakob Poeltl is out or Scotty Barnes' minutes are limited, Castleton can play the 4 and the 5. He is very much not an absolute must roster player, but he's someone that we use. And I think when the Raptors play, because they play the Warriors Thursday, so that's a tougher matchup. But then they play the Spurs, the Wizards, the Nets, the Hornets, the Sixers, the Bulls, the Blazers, all in a row. That is going to be prime period for 28 Castleton minutes a game. And I don't mind that as an ad. Again, they play Thursday, then they've got Friday, Saturday off, so it's a really bad schedule they've got. And then it turns into an absolute banger. Sunday, Monday, back-to-back, and then a Wednesday, Friday, Sunday after that. And that's where the value of Castleton will start to come in. The last player I want to talk about is Kessler Edwards because, again, he's had value. He has had value. But we're talking about him in a spot now where he has got 2 games left on his contract. They have 2 games this week, and if he plays in both of those games, that is it for him. And the only time he can actually play a game again will be for the second last day of the season, the final Friday of the season where there are 15 games on. So unless you believe that Edwards is going to do a million things today, and Davis could actually be returning at some point next week, I don't fully believe that, but he could be. It's very hard to consider Kessler Edwards a guy to hold. With only 2 games this week, on an 11 and a 10 game day, and that is all he has left on his contract. So even if he plays this week, that's it for him. And if he doesn't play this week, why are you holding him? So honestly, it's just there's no benefit in it. To me, he is a very, very easy drop. So if he sits on your roster, like dropping him for Hood-Schifino, done. Any of these other names on this list is an easy call in my mind. Easy. And that's an easy call to end the show on World Frog Day. So I hope you guys got something useful out of the show. I hope you were able to double bang and leave your comments down below. Also, and I hope that your waiver wire moves pay off. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.